Hello everyone, this is GWiz. So for this video, I have two scenarios that you would want to be in. So for this first one, you're going to be soloing versus two players. I'm going to be showing you how you can completely dominate someone 1 versus 2 using this strategy. Now, let's say you get into a situation and one of your partners quit. It is not necessary to quit the game when it's a 2 versus 2 matchup. If you like doing teams, 2 versus 2 is pretty easy to deal with if you're scared of people who like to cheat. So with this strategy, you have all these minerals in excess, but you're also vulnerable. If your other teammate who is no longer with you happens to be, unprotected and then gets attacked, then that would be the issue. In a situation like this, you'll probably want to move your base closer to your teammate so that you can assist them more effectively. At the very least, you want to at least try to protect it, even if you get in a situation where you're farther away from each other by at least one space. Take advantage of those minerals in order to build an army quicker than the opponents. You'll notice that even early game, I can get a massive army. I already have 6 barracks in, and it's only been 3 minutes in game. So it is quite overwhelming to actually deal with someone who has his teammate just feeding him pure resources if that person knows what they're doing, because they can get a very dangerous army. As you can see here, I already have a handful of units before my opponents even have but just one stalker in that time frame. Now my opponent should be able to get at least, in theory, the same amount of units as me, but that doesn't typically happen because people focus on building structures in the beginning, first 2, and this can slow down the unit production. So I'm going to attack with 16. I probably could have waited and just built up 60 or so units, but I decided to attack quickly. I've attacked other players with less, so that's why I was thinking I could probably take them out with 16, but honestly, that stationary defense, impressive, I'll say. But I still have so many resources here with minerals. The issue with just minerals, however, is the only thing you can produce is marines with that. Now that works, but I definitely need gas in order to be able to make tactical approaches at my opponent that marines would just be incapable of. As you can see, they get shredded very quickly. And so upgrading that to maximum is actually a big deal. When you're by yourself, you want to be focusing on upgrades. As you can see, I have 2 engineering bays there, and that is absolutely essential. And also, I guess 16 marines in this situation wasn't going to be enough in order to get through the enemy's defenses. Now, the number that you choose is actually quite important, because if you don't bring enough units, you're just going to be wasting your minerals and no damage would even be done. So, also be careful with the positioning. As you can see, I put the factory way too close to my barracks there, and now I couldn't get one of my tanks out. So I ended up being a little inefficient with this particular matchup. As you can see, even with slight mistakes, you just have an overwhelming amount of resources. I already have 60 marines, and the opponent only has 7 of the void rays. And this is because I was able to, in the very beginning, build several barracks, whereas they're usually only able to build maybe 2 or 3 gateways in that time. Well, it's good because I have so many of these units, and it's just overwhelming because once they're able to get through most of the enemy's defenses here, my units, it took 30 of my marines just to be able to get through that. So 16 was definitely not enough. but 30 or so of them seems to be like bare minimum to be able to do some damage. I like to bring 60 just because 60 of them is a fairly good amount of Marines in order to show up at a person's base. And as you can see, game was over just like that. Now for this next section, you're going to see what it's like in order to go 2 versus 1 against someone that is also doing mineral rush. There is a strategy in order to beat them. This would be the strategy in order to win. It's very simple, actually. That's why it's really not right to be playing like this, because when you do these 2v1 or 1v2 strategies, they can easily be countered. And so, this is just a video in order to encourage people to play fairly, you know what I mean? Because if I really want to even the score in this situation, this is what I would do. I take all of my SCVs and I go and I just attack you right now, because I know that it's hard in order to control, more than one at a time. So I just straight up attack all SCVs. Go. I probably should have just attacked his command center at that point. So as you can see, he evacuated those SCVs. I was able to kill some of them, and then he just leaves. So in that situation, I'm going to go and attack the computer that he has that's just gathering resources. And I'm going to destroy that command center so that he doesn't even have the ability to get those minerals. So the mineral boosting strategy gets countered really hard when you do this, because the opponent, if they're not able to lock up their base in time, one of those bases are going to go down. Fact. So in this situation, I'm just taking them down, and this is just a minute and a half in, I'm already going to town on them. And what can you do at this point? You know what I mean? Like, you don't have any minerals, you had to move your base, and there's 2 versus 1. This is why it's not a really good idea in order to try and cheat 2 versus 1 or 1 versus 2 with this particular matchup. Yeah, you might be able to cheese it for some of them, but in reality, it's just not a smart idea. Just play the game normally. 2 versus 2 only. That way, you can have a real matchup. That's just my opinion. Obviously, you get some of the more pro players when you do stuff like that. Now, this is where it gets kind of complicated, because as you can see, my opponent in this particular situation is bunkering himself in, and my teammate really, if it wasn't for this strategy, we would have lost for sure, 100% without a doubt, because my teammate is making like the bare minimum amount of troops. Later on, they built Vikings and finished the match, which is good. But as you can see from the unit count, I'm not getting too many units yet. He has 19 and 2 tanks, 20 Marines. He could have attacked and finished it at this point, but not everybody thinks with that absolute strategy. I knew that if this is where he was building his base, he was probably going to be vulnerable from the back. So I decided to work my way around so I would have a chance of being able to deal some damage, and that's exactly what I did. Didn't have time in order to wall up this base over here, so I went after this command center, made sure I was able to destroy that. That way he's not able to get the amount of troops necessary. And my partner is basically just kind of like not trying to attack at all, pretty much. That would be like a capping strategy, and this is actually fine. You can cap the opponent like this, but in reality, you probably could have just finished him off right there, or at least did some damage, before he started to develop a planetary fortress and all this nonsense. So basically, at this point, it's quite hopeless for the other opponent. Now, for me, being the person to be the one to disable this, mineral boosting strategy by attacking the SCVs, I don't have much of an army at this point. So I just start building bases, just so that it's 100% certain without a doubt that my opponent will never be able to counter me at all. You know, like why attack with the exact same amount of firepower, by rushing it when I could just make several bases in a situation where the opponent can't, choke them out like that and then attack would be a safer way to go. Now, I was able to finish before my teammate was able to clean everything up. But, yeah, now you understand how to basically not cheat and win at this game.